They say mirrors reflect our world, but what if they also reflect something else? Something unseen? Something watching? Have you ever looked at your reflection and felt, just for a second, that it wasn't quite you? What if I told you? You were right. Ethan moved into his new apartment with little furniture, a tight budget, and a mirror left behind by the previous tenant. It was old, framed in tarnished silver, its surface slightly warped, enough to make his reflection look off. But a free mirror is a free mirror. He hung it up and thought nothing of it. The first time it happened, he barely noticed. A subtle flicker, a barely perceptible lag. He turned his head, but the reflection seemed just a fraction slower. He blamed it on exhaustion, the kind that made your mind play tricks. But then, the tricks got worse. At night, when the apartment was silent, he swore he heard whispers. Not from outside, not from his neighbors, but from inside the mirror itself. Faint, indistinct. He'd brush it off, tell himself he was imagining things, until the night he wasn't. One evening, after brushing his teeth, he lingered in front of the mirror, staring at his own tired face. That's when he saw it. His reflection blinked, but he hadn't. His breath caught in his throat. He leaned in closer, heart pounding. Was it a trick of the light? His reflection, his exact copy, tilted its head, studying him. Ethan didn't move. Neither did it. The silence was suffocating. Then it smiled. Ethan stumbled back, knocking over a glass. His reflection did not stumble. It simply stood there, grinning, frozen, watching. The second he glanced away, just for a moment, it was normal again. His mirror self, doing what it should. But he knew what he saw. He thought about getting rid of the mirror. But something about it called to him. Maybe it was curiosity. Maybe it was fear. Or maybe, just maybe, it wasn't even his own thoughts at all. As the days passed, the mirror grew darker. Its glass dimmed, like something on the other side was pressing against it. The whispers became clearer, forming words. His name, spoken in a voice that was almost his, but not quite. And then, something changed. One morning, Ethan woke up to find the mirror covered in breath marks, as if someone had been standing right in front of it. But he lived alone. And worse, when he looked closer, there were handprints on the inside of the glass. The next night, Ethan set up his phone to record. He needed proof. He needed answers. But when he watched the footage the next morning, his reflection wasn't just mimicking him anymore. It was watching, waiting. And worst of all, it wasn't alone. Ethan froze as the video played. Behind his reflection, a shadow shifted, its form indistinct, but undeniably there. He rewound the footage, pausing, heart pounding. The thing in the mirror wasn't just a shadow. It had eyes. Dark, hollow eyes staring directly at him. A knock at his door startled him. He nearly dropped his phone. Who would be visiting at this hour? Cautiously, he peered through the peephole. Nothing. Just an empty hallway. But when he turned back, the mirror had changed. The reflection of his room was wrong. The furniture was all there. The walls were the same. But his reflection was missing. Then came the whisper, clear as day. "Let me in." Ethan stumbled back, his breath coming in sharp gasps. He grabbed his phone, scrambling to delete the video, to smash the mirror, to do anything. But before he could move, the light in his apartment flickered. The air grew cold. And then, his reflection stepped forward, out of the mirror. Ethan's legs locked beneath him as he scrambled backward. The thing that had been his reflection stood motionless, its head tilted at an unnatural angle. Then, in a slow, jerky motion, it took a step forward. "You don't belong here anymore," it whispered in a voice that was almost his, but warped, distorted. The walls around Ethan seemed to darken. The air thickening like an invisible force was pressing in. He tried to scream, but his voice caught in his throat. The figure lunged. Ethan barely dodged as the thing crashed forward, shattering the mirror behind it. But instead of breaking into shards, the glass rippled, like water, and before Ethan could react, his own body felt weightless. Something yanked him backward, pulling him toward the fractured liquid surface of the mirror. His hands clawed at the floor, but it was no use. His reflection smiled one last time before Ethan's body was sucked into the glass. The room was silent once more. The reflection that had stepped out of the mirror stretched its fingers, rolled its neck, and turned to face the real world. It was Ethan now. Or at least it looked like him. The doppelganger adjusted to its new body, grinning as it moved through Ethan's apartment. But the grin faded when a noise, low, resonant, and wrong, filled the space. The closet mirror groaned. The glass cracked, but not outward, inward, as if something was breaking free. A skeletal hand shot out, fingers elongated and twisted. Then another. The air grew thick with static, the temperature plummeting. The doppelganger stumbled backward, its stolen body trembling. A shape crawled through the mirror, dragging itself free. It was taller than Ethan, its face a shifting void of shadows, its fingers clawed and reaching. The entity's hollow eyes locked onto the imposter, unblinking. "You don't belong here," it rasped, mocking the doppelganger's earlier words. The doppelganger turned to run, but the thing was faster. Shadows wrapped around its stolen form, sinking deep, pulling, unraveling. It screamed, Ethan's voice distorted with something inhuman. As the entity's hands plunged into its chest, wrenching something unseen free. The mirror behind the creature rippled again, but this time it wasn't water. It was a doorway. The doppelganger's body convulsed, its form cracking like porcelain, until it was dragged, shrieking, back into the abyss. The mirror shattered. Silence fell over the apartment. The air lightened, the temperature rising back to normal. The thing turned, stepping toward the only remaining mirror, the one where Ethan was still trapped, his face pale with horror. It placed one hand against the glass. Then it whispered, "Your turn." The mirror clouded, swallowing Ethan's reflection whole. And then, it was empty. Just a mirror, just a reflection, just nothing. The apartment remained silent, except for the faintest sound of breathing. But from where? The last shard of glass trembled, then stilled.